Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys football. We got a West Coast matchup as BYU goes on the road to Oregon. BYU coming off a very impressive win in Provo going into the late hours. Still, we were perfect on the day with picks until BYU smashes us in the face. Honestly, a gritty win for BYU, a game that BYU hasn't necessarily won in the past. A very smash-mouth physical game that BYU showed up for. Playing an Oregon team that I'm not out on Oregon. They got embarrassed on national TV by Georgia, but this Oregon team still has a lot of talent. They still have everything in front of them in the Pac-12. Before we get into it, though, just wanted to say thank you guys for all the support, especially the BYU fans. I even know we faded y'all last week. The BYU fans have been absolutely awesome. We love talking ball with them. Great fans. And shout out the Oregon fans, or whether you're just college football watchers. We appreciate all the support. We put a lot of time into this. We appreciate you guys rocking with us. So if you do like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I'm going to kick it off to you. I know you got some thoughts on this game. What are your early opinions, BYU Oregon?
I don't think BYU should be dogs. That's what comes right off the bat for me. I mean, Jaren Hall, I don't think if you look at his stats, they're not wildly impressive. The QBR was a little low, not a ton of just one touchdown. But he was making some big throws, and he was down his top two wideouts. So assuming one of them comes back, at least, hopefully Nakua for sure, and then if Romney comes back, I think that'll ease the pressure that Jaren Hall was under because he did have to make a lot of plays himself.
Shout out Chase Roberts, though, showing up. I mean, he was an absolute dog. Jaren Hall's, you said it best, he's a gamer. He's one of the most underrated, talented quarterbacks, and you think about the long line of BYU talent at that quarterback position, I think you can add Jaren Hall to that list. He is extremely good. I like a lot of what that BYU defense was phenomenal. The reason why I'm leaning Oregon, I hate to do this to the BYU fans twice in a week. I like Oregon in this game. I think Oregon is just getting a little undervalued. They played the second best team clearly in the country in Georgia. Probably the number one best team, defending champs, and they got embarrassed. I get it. It was in Atlanta, Georgia. It was pretty much an on-the-road game. I don't think Oregon's as bad as people think. I think that game got away from him. Bo Nix had some Bo Nix moments. But this Oregon team is still very talented on both sides of the ball. I feel like an idiot saying I'm not out on Bo Nix at this point, but I'm still not out on Bo Nix. I like the guys he has around him. And quite frankly, that BYU win for me wasn't as impressive just because Baylor's offense stinks. Baylor's offense cannot move the football.
No, I just think you might have one of the better linebacking tandems with Tooley and Pili. Those guys are awesome. He might be a legit first-round pick. I mean, a guy who flies around, goes sideline to sideline, makes a ton of tackles.
I swear to God, he made every tackle. I swear.
I mean, it seemed like it, and every time he'd get in people's faces, and he's the energy of that team and their battery. And the one thing about this BYU defense, though, is they're not going to put the pressure on Oregon like Georgia does. Georgia's a very in-your-face defense, and I do think BYU is a little more aggressive than they have been in the past, and I think they have maybe more talent, especially at the linebacker spot, but they will give Bo Nix some room to breathe, and he's a guy who does not play well flustered and maybe will look a little better with just an inch, if you will.
You got to get Bo Nix hot. You got to get him hot and bothered in the pocket because that's when you're starting to see him just throw it, close his eyes, throw the ball, and that's where you see those pick sixes. That's where you see those big-time plays. This Oregon team, they have I just want to, ignore the Georgia – go back to what I was saying about Oregon before the season started and just ignore that the Georgia game even happened. Because you look at Oregon, this is the most talented team Bo Nix has had around him. I mean, the receivers, I love their Seven McGee. I really like Troy Franklin. I really like Chase Cota. I really like – he's behind a very veteran and talented offensive line. You never saw any of that at Auburn. He had no wide receivers. He had no offensive line help. He's finally going to get that. And I don't see what you noted. See BYU putting the pressure on him. I think he can get the ball into playmakers' hands, and I think they can get the job done. At home, if that spread gets inside of 3, I think I like the Ducks here.
I get it, and I get you saying, Georgia's a different animal, but I think there is levels to how badly you can get beaten and not have it be slightly alarming.
Yeah, true.
Oregon really couldn't touch Georgia on offense, and I think Georgia I don't know what to think of them as an offensive team. Like last year, they weren't great. They were good enough to win, but obviously very much carried by the defense. They made Stetson Bennett look like a first-round quarterback, and every time the running back seemed to touch it, they were getting a lot of yards. So I think that's probably what concerns me is I don't know that they have the pieces across the board on defense to slow a BYU team down that I think when they get back their full stable of wide receivers and paired up with Jaren Hall, I think they're going to put enough points up to let that defense do its thing and hold Oregon down. I just think, yeah, I get that Georgia's good, but you don't want to look like you don't want to do 3-49 in a game where Georgia pulled themselves off pretty early.
Yeah, that if there is something concerning to me about this Oregon team, it is the defense. I mean, guys like Noah Sewell, Justin Flohr, Brandon Dorless, there was a lot of guys that I liked on that Oregon defense. And you look at what they did. Georgia won 12 plays, 85 yards. They scored a touchdown on their first 6 drives. And Oregon moved the ball against the Georgia defense. Like they didn't go 3 and out not a single time in that first half. Oregon moved the ball a little bit. The offense didn't look bad until Bo Nix decided to be Bo Nix.
That is the one thing. Their offense did kind of look good before Bo Nix had the 2 turnovers and then the wheels really fell off. But Bo Nix did. They were playing okay. I think they were moving the ball, especially through the air. It's not like they had much to show for it on the ground. And I don't think you thought Oregon was able to run the ball particularly well because I don't think they have the running back talent quite yet. But Bo Nix did look kind of good, if we're being honest, before he kind of got beaten down.
What I think, here's the best argument for BYU, in my opinion, is which quarterback you trust more. Jaren Hall, absolute gamer. Bo Nix, probably the opposite of a gamer, respectfully. That's probably your best argument for BYU. My best argument for Oregon is BYU is very good inside the box. I mean, Baylor tried to establish the run. They couldn't do it. And now what happened with Baylor and why they couldn't really win the game is they just didn't have any explosive plays down the field. There was not a single wide receiver that you feared. I mean, their number one receiver that I'm scared of, Ben Simmons, their tight end, who is very good tight end, but I'm not exactly afraid of him. And Blake Shapen just could not push the ball down the field. I think Oregon will be able to do that. Whether it's pushing the ball down the field vertically or getting into the hands of a guy like Seven McGee behind the line of scrimmage and letting him work, we didn't see BYU have to tackle some of those athletes in open space. Oregon's not going to try to play smash mouth football like Baylor did. They're going to try to spread you out. They're going to try to make it a track meet. I think Oregon has the athletes on the outside. I'm kind of talking myself out of this Oregon pick, and I might just let you handle it because
but you look, it's like BYU has a very veteran group across all phases of the game. Their back end has played a lot of football and played really pretty good football. I think the fact that now they have 2 legit star linebackers who make a lot of plays and create negative plays, I think is huge. And I just don't think BYU should be dogs. I think you're getting like decent value at plus 3.5. And I mean, I'd be more of a money line take on it, but I just think BYU is a really solid team at all levels. I don't think Oregon's going to be able to take them out, physical them up front. I think on both sides, especially the offensive line, looked very good, I thought, against a very, very tough Baylor front. And again, if you give Jaren Hall his weapons back, I think they're going to be able to score. And I just don't see enough explosiveness out of Oregon with Bo Nix, a guy who you kind of good for 2 turnovers a game. That's been what seems like his college career has been.
That was the thing we loved about BYU the most, and we were high, which pains us so much because we were high on both Baylor and BYU. They made us pretty much pick our darlings of the preseason against each other. The reason we were so high on BYU is what you said, how complete of a team they are. You look at that team, and it's very hard to look across college football and find teams that don't have holes. BYU doesn't have a hole. They have a great coach. They have a great quarterback. They have a good offensive line. They have a good defensive line. There is nothing on that team where it's like, that's a red flag. And that's kind of why you like a team like BYU who's experienced or going on the road to a hostile environment. That's why you might lean BYU there. I just think at the end of the day, Oregon has the better athletes, and I think that might help them out, especially as you get the ball to the perimeter. But again, BYU is not a team that I'm rushing to bet against ever. This is not a game that I'll probably end up betting it because it's a good game and I'm going to have it on. But it's not a game that I'm –
my point of view is this game feels like it should probably be an even. You're just going to make a pick because I'm not trying to say, I know I kind of talked up Oregon, and I think Oregon's pretty good. I mean, I'm a little more concerned about the beatdown they suffered at Georgia, but than probably you are. But again, I still think that this game should be really tight. I think you could call it a pick'em, and that wouldn't have been like a crazy line. That's probably what's making me lean to BYU, and I'm just a massive Jaron Hall fan. I think he's a winner.
Yeah, he's a beast.
And Max Tooley. I
love the BYU program. I'm all on the I'm on the Sooners this year, and I'm on the BYU Cougars. Even though I lost money on them, they broke up our perfect day. Like, this BYU team is fun to watch. Those guys on the defensive side of the ball, they fly around, they tackle, and they have fun doing it. I'm a Cougar fan, and the BYU fans are great. The BYU fans rock.
That was an electric. I mean, and you knew it was going to be that late night game at BYU is always loud and raucous, but
that's on our list.
Obviously, a lot of that did affect the game, if we're being honest. I mean, you saw
100%.
You saw it disrupting the offense pretty good, and I think Autson's going to be really good too in Oregon, but I don't know. I just feel like this game should be much closer. Don't see.
I feel it. Shout out the BYU fans. They're absolutely awesome. They rock. Anyways, that'll do it. This is a game that it's going to be a fun one. It is going. Whether you have Oregon, whether you have BYU, it's going to be a fun one. We appreciate you guys checking us out as usual. If you do like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate y'all, and we'll talk to y'all